Denominations are, by definition, of a name. They are a separation of Christ from Christ, of His body from His body. Kind of an out-of-body experience. Paul said, "Is Christ divided?" Is Christ divided? I'm not arguing, and I'm actually arguing exactly the opposite, that things don't need to be learned. That people that go to church aren't in danger of, Jesus said, "How will you escape being condemned to hell?" So I think it's mostly, I think it's pretty much all an attitudinal thing. If you have the right attitude before God, then you are granted what you need to know and you'll follow through with it. You will obey the gospel. 1 Thessalonians 1. Second Thessalonians 1. You will obey the gospel. 2 Thessalonians 1. And if you don't have that, you said, this is what I believe, a son is a son forever. People might have, I kind of believe this is true, or something like that. They have some belief that they're convinced, yeah, Jesus is right. But if they don't do anything with it, that's one thing. But, if you don't obey the gospel, when it is preached to you, Paul said, how can they hear without a preacher? Then, you will not know God. You won't know how to be saved. You get information along your life that says this is some information about God. It could be true information, it could be false information. But it's like a crossword puzzle or a jigsaw puzzle or a word find or anything like that. How hard are you going to work on it to figure out who God is and what He wants? The primary problem people aren't interested in God is because they don't think that He cares about them, and their interests are elsewhere. The further we get along in immorality, the more distant God seems, the more tyrannical God seems, the more, God forbid, evil God seems. The more we're confused, the more we believe lies. I'm just telling you, it's the truth. I'm not digging for anything here. I don't want people to be convinced of what I say because I say it. I want people to be convinced of what God says because He says it. And if those things don't jive, then just, shut the hell up, Mark. Got it? He gives us the opportunity. We want to say that He's to blame. He told the Pharisees, if you were blind, you would not be guilty of sin. But now that you say, we see, your guilt remains. Because of what the Pharisees stood for. They stood for somebody who was supposed to know. Some people who were supposed to really know about God. When they were faced with information that showed that they were wrong and that showed the right, that showed that here's some new information, here's what you need to learn about God. They said, we can't accept it because we're too good. And that is a situation in which we find ourselves. That is a situation in which I found myself. I was too proud to admit that I didn't know the way. I was too proud to admit that I wasn't saved. I was too proud to admit that there was something lacking in my life, that I had not, followed God as I should have, that I did not live the right life, that I didn't know something, And God just said, let me get in there. Let me, get in there, like rock in a water over winter, and it'll squeeze the rock apart. And the people I were around were very loving, and it helped me. And I wanted to abandon what was wrong and follow God. So when we develop denominations, does that dilute us or strengthen us? It dilutes us. It means there are different messages. There's only one Christ. There's only one Lord. Let's live according to it and to Him. If the Catholics are right, and I'm not saying they are, if the Catholic, I don't agree with any denomination. Nor do I agree with churches that call themselves non-denominational and then put a stamp on there. This is this kind of non-denominational church. It's denominational if you do that. But if the Catholic Church is right, my mother was Catholic, being half Italian. Her father being Italian. My grandmother on her side being Catholic. My great-grandparents coming over from Italy, both being Italian Catholics. I was brought to Catholic church, I believe, when I was a kid. I think I was. We didn't go to church very much when I was Catholic, or when my family was Catholic, or my mother was Catholic. My father was agnostic, which basically ended up being, ended up equaling atheism. And if they're right, why would they separate themselves out and not help the world? Don't they love the world? Jesus says, who is it? James says, John says, if anybody loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. James went to an extreme. He said, if you have this world's goods and you see your brother in need and you say, oh, God bless you, be well fed and all this stuff, and you don't give him what he needs, how can the love of the Father be in him? He said, how can the love of the Father be in such a person? He's not. It's impossible. Which is why when I see these people that all they want to do is fight on the internet, and I wonder, well, where's the love of God? It's not there because they're fakes. And we denominate ourselves and we'll say, like I've been told from several sources, Doug Perry is a part of Fellowship of the Martyrs, or not Doug Perry. Doug Perry's, basically heads up Fellowship of the Martyrs. He basically dominates the whole thing, and he says, I might ask people to follow me, but he's the one coming out with all these new revelations. And a lot of it's accurate, actually. A lot of it's accurate. It's good to listen to as long as you don't get swept up in his deception. But when you look at Yoke Up, I believe I've heard, and I believe I saw he was wearing a Fellowship of the Martyrs t-shirt. So he's part of Fellowship of the Martyrs denomination. Just might start a new church eventually called Fellowship of the Martyrs. Even though he says, even though Doug Perry says, well, we don't believe in denominations, he's got his own organization and his own little following, and go on down to Liberty and all this stuff. And but apparently Jeff Yoke from Yoke Up was part of Fellowship of the Martyrs. He had a Fellowship of the Martyrs t-shirt, I believe. I believe I saw it. I saw somebody mention the Fellowship of the Martyrs t-shirt. Doug Perry himself said that Yoke Up was part of his ministry. So when people say, oh, I'm against Fellowship of the Martyrs, but I'm pro Yoke Up, they're coming from the same root. Okay? Yoke Up and Fellowship of the Martyrs were at one time, if not still, the same part of the same organization, the same people. So when you follow Yoke Up, you're following a Doug Perry spinoff, if it's even spun off from him. But Yokup, Jeff Yokup, I think his last name is Yokup, was working with Doug Perry, and I don't pay much attention to Jeff Yokup, or yeah, Jeff Yokup. Every once in a while, somebody bring up something, I thought, oh, I wonder what's going on with the Yokups. Or, maybe every once in a while, I wonder what's going on with Fellowship with Martyrs, or every once in a while, I say, I wonder what's going on with the atheists and stuff like that. I don't pay much attention. I don't have much time for that.